Hello, this is Cotton Stoops, and today's HTUC video is on Loomala. Loomala, at the very least, is an interesting Lumion and is the first Lumion out of the anniversary event that Lumion Legacy has done, so why not talk about it? In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to use and counter Loomala, the counters and checks and teammates that you'll need to know for running any Loomala on a team, as well as the roles, sets, and of course the offensive coverage that Loomala has, so you can use Loomala in any course of situation. Today's video is all about how to use and counter Loomala. So the role that Loomala plays is an essential question to ask, and we can answer this question with the base stats. The base stats here are really simple, with its melee attack being the only quote-unquote bad stat, because of course 45 is lower than pretty much everything that is ranged focus and melee focus, so I wouldn't use this stat at all. It does have really good defenses for an offensive Lumion, which is on par with Eclipses and can be on par with bulkier Lumions and walls. Do note that it's not going to be as bulky as them because of its HP stat, which even then is pretty high for an offensive Lumion, giving Loomala a lot of time to set up, or depending on your sets. Your energy of choice is of course 98. This is a really good energy stat here, as this will let you use a lot of moves consecutively or high base power moves without worrying from time to time about how much energy you have left to spare. And of course, you do have a really good speed stat of 111. This does let you outspeed Lumions such as Garlash, Namare, Esperatu, Volcloa, and Garbantis, and can help you compete with faster Lumions such as Zulong and Hunder. Your range attack here is of course not the best. This is nowhere near close wall breaking power, and this is lower than most cleaners and sweepers, as most cleaners such as Zulong, Samurai are in different spectrums and are a lot higher than 95 range attack. While it isn't as high, or as low as I mean, compared to Gobademic, this is a pretty low range attack stat. So, what role does Loomala play? Well, based on its base stats, it has a decent attack prowess and does have a lot of setup potential with its defenses. So, Loomala will make a decent cleaner and a pretty good sweeper if you can get it to work, mainly setting up as much as you can before actually doing damage, because you're gonna have to make up for that 95 range attack stat a lot. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the offensive coverage for Loomala. So as for Loomala, you hit 0 type super effectively because your offensive typing is typeless, not including other stuff, just talking about stab. But you do have to watch out for 4 types, those types being Ice, Metal, and Spirit. I don't know why that said 4, it's meant to be 3, but Ice types particularly, you don't really want to use, or you don't really want to be on them all the time, mainly because they do have some setup, but you do have Boom Bash, which I'll talk about later, so you can't hit those super effectively. You have to. Same thing with metal types. And for spirit types, this is very niche because they can't set up on you because they do resist you. Well, there are some sets for Loomala that I'll talk about a bit later that can help against the spirit types, but only for one time, and you guys probably already know that. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the sets for Loomala. So most of the time, Loomala is only really one to run one type of set, but they all have differing movesets, which I will mention briefly. For our set, we're going to be running the setup sweep set, which is going to be pretty fast and pretty speedy. And of course, we're going to take advantage of our defense here and speed to set up as much as possible. You want the ability Wholesome here, mainly because this will help out in setting up because we don't have any more weaknesses. I'm pretty sure this also procs the Rageful plushie. It doesn't count it still counts the moves as super effective hits, but of course it doesn't do the same super effective hit damage on you. So you can experiment with that if you want to do more damage, which is of course a pretty good idea. However, we're not going to be running that, but our personality will be Smart Nimble. You can run very nimble to outspeed nimble Zulongs and nimble Gobademics, but personally Smart Nimble seems alright and fine because most of the Lumions under you are of course running nimble, not very nimble most of the time. If you are afraid of Boots Lumions, then of course you can use this and make Loomala more of a cleaner rather than a sweeper. And for our moveset, Raging Howl is our strongest stab move. You can replace it for Resonate or Hyper Screech if I'm pretty sure it has one of those moves, but this will mostly be utilizing our damage here. Boom Dash is to hit the metal types and ice types that will like to switch in on us, and Peace of Mind is to set up. Now notice that I don't have a fourth move option. This is mainly because you do have options. You have Provoke to stop Wobblisk from setting up barbs on you, and Icicle from baffling out common Lumians that can't switch in on you. You can also stop Peace of Mind Wars, which is always pretty nice. And you can also run Spit Out, which is what this set will be using with the Spirit Essence. I wouldn't really try it because it's more gimmicky if anything, but if you do want to go ahead, then of course do that. And a more even gimmickier option, you can use Stampede. As far as I am aware, it only uses your allies and not your own melee attack stat. So you can make some gimmick things with that, but I would really only suggest Provoke or Spit Out as your fourth move option. And finally, the TPs. 40 energy is really simple here. This will let you use 1 Spit Out, 2 Raging Howls, 2 Peace of Minds, and 1 Boom Dash. Pretty solid moveset for sweeping. And for your HP, its leftovers and your range attack and speed are of course maxing out your most important stats. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the counters and checks as well as your teammates for Loomala. So there are kind of a little bit of, not a lot of ways to deal with Loomala offensive wise. However, there are some pretty good Lumians. Mainly because Loomala is pretty fast, getting Lumians to outspeed it is a must on pretty much everything. Metronet, Zulong, Gargolem Attack, Charonix, and Deladrix are all really good options here because they can outspeed it and hit it decently hard. Metro can also participate in the Peace of Mind Wars, so that can also be something to note of. Deladrix, of course, is good for pivoting out, but I wouldn't suggest using this if Loomala has some few Peace of Minds up. Zulong and Gargolem Attack, they hit really hard, and for Charonix, it walls pretty much any variant of Loomala you're trying to run, unless you're running like a Stampede, but that wouldn't really matter anyway. Charonix is just the best answer for Loomala offensively and defensively because it's resistant and immune to pretty much all of its attacks, so have fun with that unless for some reason you're running the Metal Essence Spit Out, but I wouldn't really run that for Charonix. And your defensive counters and checks, this is the main way I suggest using it because you're gonna take hits from Loomala, and no matter how weak it is, it's still damage on offensive Lumians, which can be amplified over time. So I would suggest Lumians that can hit hard on the melee side or can cripple very well. I suggest melee because because you're setting a Peace of Mind on Loomala, you wouldn't want the walls to get taken advantage of, so I suggest Setamars, which is overall pretty good range sponge and it is a melee attacker. Can also talent trade off, so you can hit it for super effectively now, and it's the slowest thing on the world. And for Malmerk, Driving Force, while not super effective, gets Loomala out of the battlefield. You can also rack up damage with Aqua Jaws if you really want to, but Driving Force is the main way I do things. And you can also put Wobblisk and Icicle here. They're just melee attackers that can do pretty well. Do note that Spirit Essence Spit Out is a thing though, so let your Icicles watch out for that. And Boom Bash, of course, hits Wobblisk. Stratosaur is an overall really good answer for it. It does kind of lose if Loomala has 2 or 1 Peace of Minds up because it already has the bulk to take you on. Probably best to not challenge that bulk. However, if Stratosaur gets in on perfectly, gets hit on and hit, then Stratosaur is going to be having a great matchup. And Venolin here, it doesn't really do much offensively. You just want to poison and cripple it with with Barter Shackles if you do have that set. And overall, toxic stalling and putting the shackles on Loomala is the main way you'd want to do with Venolin. And finally, offensive teammates, just run really good Lumians that can hit the walls that it's weak to. I suggest Snagoop here because it does well against Malmerk, Setamars, and Venolin, which is honestly, what a coincidence, pretty great. You can also use other Lumians such as Ursul, who can also be pretty great for taking out the Lumians that are faster than it because of priority. Shachi is overall just a pretty good range wall breaker overall, hits a lot of things super effectively. Same thing for Ikazune. And Halventic and Tatab, they're more niche options, which helps with the metal types, and of course Halventic specifically can help with bulky toxic types and just spirit types because of Primal Slash. So you can use these more niche options, but I would definitely recommend Snagoop because of how well it does for Lumala's walls in the OU metagame. So overall, after some thought, Lumala seems really bad, and I'm not saying this in like a mean way or anything, but Lumala has nothing going for it. If you want to use a typist type that can hit hard, it is very fast, and has some good coverage, Lyricat is always here. If you want to use Lumians that are fast with brawler coverage, there are plenty of options. You have Ursul with priority, Tatab's also a really good option. And if you just want provoke peace of minds, there are just a bunch of range attacking Lumians that can do a better job at setting up. And of course, Loomala is a typeless type, so that means it doesn't have strong coverage at all because typeless type doesn't hit anything super effectively. So overall, Loomala is just so mediocre right now. It doesn't really have a niche in Yu-Yu because Lyricat already does better than it. It's honestly probably best fit for an NU Lumian, which is pretty disappointing for anniversary Lumian, not to mention the mascot of Lumian Legacy. So if you found this video informational, like the video, subscribe if you're into more of these kind of videos. I will be making more videos on more anniversary Lumians to come, and of course remember that Zulong is still a dumpster fire.